You know, sometimes I read something and I just see that it's so stupid, but it's being put a certain way and there is some support for it that I'm just like, I can't believe people are so stupid. But then I have to remember that not everybody understands how logging works. Not everybody has driven a skidder or operated a chainsaw, cut down trees, hauled them out, sawed them into pulpwood, taken them to market. Most people have no clue. So in order to log a place, you need to create roads, forestry roads, usually skidder roads. You'll cut down trees, and with the modern equipment, you've got shears that cut down the trees. But in back when I was doing it, small operations still run chainsaws and skidders with cables instead of grapples. So you hook up your logs manually, you limb your logs manually. But in industrial operations, you got all this heavy equipment that descends on it. You got shears, you got delimbers, you got loaders at the yard, you got sometimes you have forwarders if the ground is soft and you don't want to skid the wood on the ground. Those are log trucks that go in the woods. They're skidders that are log trucks. So you can load the logs onto the forwarders and take it to the yard. Bill Gates and other investors are betting Kodama systems can reduce carbon dioxide in the air by chopping down and burying trees. Now, if only Uncle Sam would get on board with tax credits too. So the issue with this is all the carbon emissions in order to gain access to the land, in order to cut the trees down, in order to then bury the trees. You've got massive root systems. This is not a simple patch of dirt with grass on it. This is I mean the amount of energy that it's going to take to log all this wood and then bury it in the ground because we don't what they're trying to do is trap the carbon. These are carbon filters. They filter carbon dioxide, they produce oxygen. That's what photosynthesis does. Trees are our best friend. Trees are our way out. They want to cut these trees down and bury them under the ground because when you cut them, they start releasing the stored carbon dioxide in the trees. I mean, it's the same thing with tilling. They're also talking about no till farming, which is only sustainable for a little while. You have to till the land or it no longer produces the yield that you need, so that's not realistic either. The idea of planting trees, I'm all for that. But even planting trees requires that you get access, and in some cases you might use machinery if you're doing seedlings, but if you're just seeding, which has much less of a chance of the trees actually coming up because you got weeds and grass and stuff that choke the little seedlings that you plant. So most of the time, when you do plant trees, you plant seedlings that are sprouted in a controlled environment where they don't have to compete against weeds and grass. So just to cut the wood down or just to plant, you still are going to need to use the machinery. The most logical thing to do would be to just plant, not to bury trees. I mean, we use wood. That's such a waste. And they're going to try to sell you this like this is actually a solution when the truth is that it's a band-aid. They're literally burying the problem and relying on it not getting disturbed to just encapsulate it like radioactive waste. We can't get rid of it. We can't do anything about it. Let's just bury it. Let's just make it go away. You know, all the plastic, let's throw it in the ocean. Make it go away. Well, it turns out, you motherfuckers, it doesn't go away. You're not solving the problem. You're not addressing any sort of real problem. You're spending billions of dollars. In this case, it was, I think they raised 6 billion. Let's see. Oh yeah, Kodama has raised more than 6 billion from Bill Gates Climate Fund and other investors that pursues new ways to reduce wildfire risk and lock away carbon in harvested trees. We need to do logging. Part of the reason you got fires everywhere is because in these states that are run by people that don't know anything about logging, if you don't go in and log it, nature logs it with beetles and other ways of killing trees. They then fall down and a lightning strike will log that area for you. And we get zero. We don't get any of the wood to use for houses. All that wood is burned, and the amount of carbon that is released as a process is astronomical. So, please don't fall for this. Please understand that that the idea of burying all these trees, the carbon footprint of that operation, and the ecological harm that's going to be done, plus the wasted wood. I mean, these trees, what I mean, let's not use them for anything. Let's just bury them in the ground because we're so concerned about carbon. If you really want to change things, and Russell Brand said this the other day, I think, either it was Tucker or Russell, but they were saying that the reason that they can tell that no one truly gives a shit about climate change is because no one's going around planting trees. That's the real solution. We want to lessen the forested part of the world and urbanize as much as possible while still bitching about climate change and a carbon crisis, while also not planting any goddamn trees. We want to deforest the whole planet. We want spiders to go away and trees and bushes and you know anything that's not walkable with a pair of high heels or some Air Jordans. If they're going to get muddy from it, let's clear cut it and pave it. That's clearly what America wants to do, what the world is headed toward, and this is part of the problem. And that mindset is not going to be fixed by burying trees or by planting trees. The mindset of wanting to eradicate the wilderness and the things that keep us alive, I mean, that's something that we need to address head on. That's not like a tertiary, like, oh, we'll just bury trees, we'll just cut trees down, we'll plant trees. Like, that is a major problem. That's a mindset issue, just like the capitalist system being predicated on infinite growth on a finite world is beautiful until it fucking stops working and reality comes crashing down on your ass. Nobody wants to face that though. Nobody wants to talk about the real stuff. We'll spend 6 billion to put a band-aid on it. Shut the fuck up. Move the fuck on. We're not going to address the rampant consumerism, the overproduction, the fact that the economy falls apart if anything slows down. No company can slow down production without impacting their bottom line in a very bad way. And if they're public, their shareholders are going to fucking hate that. They're going to be like, you ramp that production right back up. If there's demand, we're going to sell. The only way we ramp production down is if things aren't selling. So as long as you buy, they're going to produce. And as long as you want to build a house on a mountainside, somebody will come in and cut the trees down. And if enough people do that and have no thought in their mind of ever replanting a tree, then how did we get here? I think you can explain how we got here to me. I don't think I need to explain it. I think that you are all very smart and you all know exactly what the real issue is. We're just being led down some weird. Um, I don't really even know how to exactly describe it, but we're being led down a very weird road that is only benefiting those who make money off of it, those who profit off of it. So the other thing I wanted to highlight is the actual sources of natural emissions, because we love to say the number one human uh, source of carbon is fossil fuel use, land use, and industrial processes. So fossil fuel use you can see is 87%. Um, as you can see here, your natural sources, 42% comes from ocean-atmosphere exchange, oxygen being depleted from the ocean, from living animals that use their gills to breathe the oxygen out of the water. Um, plant plant and animal respiration, soil respiration, and decomposition, and volcanic eruptions. Plant and animal respiration is 29%, and soil respiration is about 29% too. Um, so this is 330 billion tons of carbon dioxide emissions. How much is 330? Damn, they use a different unit. Of course they do. How many tons? 36 billion tons. There we go. Finally, we get a number. So, 36 billion from um, from humans, right? And then we've got 330 billion tons. 330 billion. So 10 times. 10 times the amount. And that's only 40%. That's only 42% of natural emissions. So just over, let's say 400, 800 roughly, around 800 billion tons are produced from natural sources. And then fossil fuels, which are by far, the number one producer, 87% is 36 billion. Are you getting a little bit more of the picture now? This is like a crisis that is being used just like the the thing that happened in 2020 where you couldn't do anything, and then the next thing, the fires in the island. Um, it's a manufactured agenda that's number one meant to control your behavior and make you feel guilty for driving a car when they're flying planes and living in luxury houses that have the carbon footprint of 10 to 15 of our homes. They've got multiple refrigerators, multiple beds, multiple baths. They're heating the outdoors. They got patios. They got outdoor seating with the propane heat. They got all the stuff, all of it. But you are evil and you are destroying the environment. I mean, take this seriously, folks. Take it seriously. Fossil fuel created 33 billion tons of carbon, and then the ocean release creates 330 tons. So planting trees could never offset the 33 billion. That's what they want you to believe. How many tons of carbon do trees currently annually? Oh, America's forests sequester over 80 million tons of carbon a year. Oh, 80 million. 800 million, sorry. Roughly 12% of U.S. annual emissions. So we need to plant more trees. All the trees that we're cutting down, all the deforestation, we need to plant trees. Trees are our friend. Trees are our way out. Planting trees. Not cutting trees down and burying them, planting them. And then let's just look at this, the no-till farming. How are you going to no-till farm? You have to till because the surface gets depleted and then the soil underneath is still fertile. And so you have to till that rich soil up to the top or you don't, it doesn't work. And so this is one of the main contributors. I mean, if the ocean is 42% and this is ocean's 42%, 330 million, 332 330 billion. This has got to be in the 2 to 250 billion tons, and that's just land use. And again, 36 billion from fossil fuels. So yeah, we better get rid of your cars. That's the number one thing. That's a big deal. No, there's 800 billion tons of carbon that is released from natural sources. 36 billion? I mean, I'm not saying pollute. I'm just saying the crisis where we need to spend trillions of dollars to change everything all at once. And we're talking about wastefulness, but we're also talking about scrapping the power grid and rolling out new shit with new technology and new batteries and spending all this money. And it's just the same thing as throwing away a perfectly good iPhone that still works because it's 2 years old and you're embarrassed. People think you're one of the poors because you pull it out. That's another system of control, is your own vanity and wanting people to believe that you've got the newest and the best and you're doing so well. That's ruining the environment too. So I want you to just think, just think. If you actually care about the environment, then let's do some actual things to reduce consumption and production and pollution because waste is a byproduct of production and consumption. Okay? It doesn't happen on its own. So stop just looking at the end result and understand that there's a cause of it. But no one wants to look at the cause. So if you know what, if you don't want to look at the cause, if you don't want to make any changes, then I don't want to make any changes that are just spending money and just nonsense. You want to make some real changes, changes to the system, changes to the way we behave and interact with the earth, and we treat it with more respect, and we don't pollute, and we don't just produce new iPhones every year because Apple needs to make more money. Yeah, let's make some real changes. Let's have a real conversation. I give um, I would give anything for an adult conversation with adult solutions to the issue of pollution in the modern world. But for now, the solutions are how can we increase the profits of these corporations that are going to benefit from rolling out an entire new power grid? You're not going to make any money off of that. It's just going to make your costs more expensive. And you know, pretty much anything, you could just follow the money. And if there's no money to be had, then nobody gives a shit. Unless we do on our own because we actually care about the planet. That is the only way that something meaningful is going to change. If we say, you know what, we can't just keep consuming endlessly. At some point, it's gotta have a limit. We gotta agree upon like reasonable, sustainable way to live for the next couple thousand years. Like that's what we should be talking about. Not like 10 years. Like how can we create an environment where kids aren't being born and immediately being fed information about the fact that adults have ruined the planet. You know, I mean, there's a reason that they're able to push that propaganda narrative is because there is some underlying truth to it. It's not an emergency crisis that needs to be handled tomorrow, but there is truth to it, and we should have a carefully considered, rational conversation about what we can do to change it and fix it and make the earth a better place for everyone to live. Okay, I'm done. Thank you for listening. Hope you found it informative. I hope that we can come up with some common sense solutions to the problems that are facing humanity. And I hope that we can take control back from the people that are just making everything about money. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.